Hi YouTubers, it's Steve Robertson again calling from Rescape. If you watched my last video I said RuneScape. These videos are going to be one-take videos without editing, and I have very little notes. Sometimes I'll jot a word down just so I remember to say something, but uh, but they're pretty off the cuff, so if I say something ridiculous you'll just have to disregard it. RuneScape was a game I played back in middle school and high school. I have no idea why I said that. I think if I watched the video it was because my cat was distracting me. But anyway, my channel is called Rescape, and today on Rescape I will be covering the topic or word I will be using, often called tension. Now tension is going to be, instead of giving you a textbook definition of what tension is, I'm going to say in my channel it's going to be more of a universal principle that can apply to a lot of different things on a lot of different levels. So I'll give some examples of tension on different levels so you get kind of a feel for what I'm getting at. So later on when I mention it, you can be like, oh yeah, okay, I kind of see what he's talking about there. Yeah, I can see how that's tension. So the first level of tension, physical tension, can be muscle tension, which is what most people think of when you say tension. You're like, ah, like you're really like tense. Like maybe there's an awkward part of a conversation and you tense up, or you're afraid and you freeze, or you're lifting weights and you just get to this point where you're maxing out and you can't barely make that last rep, and you're just like putting everything you have into it and your whole body's clenching up and there's like a lot of tension. It's like that's physical tension. Now mental tension would be something similar to when someone tells you to focus on something and you go like you like really like zone in and like really try to like get as close in as fine-tuned of a piece as possible, like you're focusing on a specific point and nothing else. Your mind will start having like this tense thing going on, though it doesn't have to, and we'll go into that later. Another idea of mental tension is if you are, let's say you're angry and you don't necessarily see the situation as clearly as you did as before you're angry, and so maybe you make decisions that you wouldn't make had you seen a more perceptive version of like the reality at that point in time. Now anger, I think most emotion responses have more of a spiritual element to it, but mental tension will almost always cause a misperception or a lack of perception. So I'll go into more on relaxation on the next video, on what relaxation is and softness. In this video is going to be tension and hardness. Now hardness is something that I consider would take place if something has been tense for a long time, then that whatever that is becomes hard. So like for the brain, a hardness could be like racism. Like you were taught when you were a little kid that one race was inferior, and so that was a tense spot for you as a kid, but then you carried it. Now you're 50 and you just hold this prejudice your whole life and you just can't let it go. And so when you see those people, you don't really see them for who they are, since you have the misperception, and it kind of gets worse and worse over time. For example, if you have like a tension in your back, like you have a knot in your back and it stays there your whole life, well, over time your back is going to start conforming, like like old people like hunch over, and like they become more contorted as the tensions that they've had in their lives become more hardnesses, and it spreads and gets more and more that way. And I'll go into another video or other videos on how to prevent that from happening. This gets more into the Tai Chi thing. Like in Tai Chi, you try to move without tension, and like, well, you have to use your muscles, right? Well, how much of your muscles do you have to use, or can you get to the point where you can move without using your muscles? Maybe there's other ways to move. So there's things like that. Spiritual tension is a huge topic. Some easy examples are unforgiveness. If someone makes you angry long enough, and you're just like, I never want to see that person again, and you just hold it against them, and and whatever they did, you just can't let it go. So now you have that part in your life where you sort of having this consuming part of you, and it's not necessarily just anger, but it can just be like resentment or something that like takes over, like you can turn into depression or things like that. Um, Other spiritual and mental tensions, addictions. Um, a mind that has tensions in it is not necessarily a broken mind, but it can become broken. Like what I was talking about with wholeness. Wholeness is something you maintain in the moment. Each moment you're either whole or broke. So let's say you're a racist. You can be completely whole, and then someone of that race comes into the room, and then you judge them, and that judgment is the break. As soon as you judge them, that's the break, and that break was set up by the lack of wholeness in your mind, which was the tension in your mind. And so a large part of of removing tensions in the body and the mind and the spirit is causing those three sections of you to become more whole or less likely to break. Like if you have a temptation, that's a spiritual break caused by spiritual tension, like maybe an addiction of some sort. So the tension in your spirit, you can still be whole, but then you reach the point where that tension is activated, and then there's the break. So, and a lot of things you're gonna have in your mind, body, spirit that you don't know you're tense. The very act of being tense usually means you're not aware of it, because if you're aware of the tension, then you can start relaxing it, or it just starts relaxing itself. And we'll go into that into the next video. But that gives you some ideas on tension. Um, I hope this wasn't too vague. If you have questions further on maybe like on something I said about tension, or you want me to go more into it, just post in the comments. This is Rescape Day 5. Thanks, bye.